Check out the disagreeable weather outside. Now it's supposed to be spring. And here it is snowing. It was raining earlier. Now it's snowing. So in light of current events, there is no better time than now to stay indoors and play around with old junk computers. Well, alright, this one probably doesn't fall under the category of old, but it certainly falls under the category of junk. And this one is a little bit special, so it's special junk. If you want to put it that way. Now, some of you who have been around this channel for a long time, which is to say about 8 years, I think that was the last time it would have been around, would have been 8 years ago. I had a computer, a Toshiba laptop that I had torn apart and I was using as a sort of half top with the display kind of hanging from a thread. But it was there. The backstory on that machine is that I got it in 2007. I think it was 2007. It might have been 2006. But, no, it was 2007. I got it in 2007. And it was my main computer for the time that I had it. Which wasn't for the entire time that I owned the machine. Because that system, a Toshiba satellite L300D-044, which is a model number that a lot of you will probably be familiar of if you've been around this channel for a while, that machine was notorious for hardware failures, and just to this day it is the only system upon which Windows Vista has ever given me trouble, which is really saying something. So why on earth would I get one of these, which is what it is? Well, for one, the price was right, and two, I was kind of interested to see if the whole species was bad or if it was just my particular model. This is slightly different. As you can see, it's silver. Mine was black. Or gray. I don't actually know what it quite was. It was more of a greenish gray than it was black, but I think they called it like slate or something. Either way, this is a Toshiba Satellite L300D-044. So it's got the same CPU, an AMD Athlon 64 X2 QL62. It's got the same size hard drive, 250 gigabytes, although more on that in a second. But the RAM, it came with 4 gigs of RAM from the factory. I think the other difference as well with that model is that it's silver as opposed to slate or black or whatever you want to call it. But I was curious if the whole species was bad or if it was just the one that I had. And I've got to tell you, my experience with this one so far tells me that it might have been the whole species. So, I don't know what's up with this machine, but it would not install the operating system that I have on it unless I downgraded it to 1 gigabyte of RAM. Which is weird. The RAM passed mem test. I mean, it got obscenely hot. Obscenely hot. But it passed mem test, so don't know what's up there. Go ahead and flip it around. I did have to replace the battery in this one, and I don't know if the battery that I have is totally functional. Believe it or not, I don't know what possessed me to keep it, but that is the battery for my original L300D. Here you can see the information sticker. Uses quite the fair amount of juice. The hard drive is under here. I'm not sure if it's original or not. In fact, we might take a look at that right now, because mine came with a Toshiba hard drive from the factory. And this is a Western Digital. However, the drive that's currently installed in here right now is on borrowed time. It's got a lot of bad sectors. So let's see here. That might be factory, since it's got that sticker on it. So that is kind of interesting that they would supply it with a Western Digital drive rather than a Toshiba drive. That same sticker is present on the RAM. So unless it was installed by some kind of a refurbishing company, and it could have been. I didn't really investigate who I bought it from on eBay, but this is another one of those examples of sellers meaning well, but not really understanding what they're getting themselves into. I mean, it looks like crap. It's not in very good condition, but they said they cleaned it, and it wasn't clean. I had to go over it again. Basically, all they did was just wipe a rag over it. So there was streaks all over the screen, which is a glossy display. Hello. You can see there's a lot of wear on the keyboard. This wasn't a lightly used machine, but I don't really care. This is probably the closest I'm ever going to get to one of those machines anyway. So hopefully it lasts. You can see there are your indicators. Back in the day, in 2010, I actually had made, in fact it might have been before 2010, because a lot of my early videos actually came from 2009 and 2008. I'd made a walk-around tour of that particular computer, but I never actually uploaded it to YouTube, and I think the footage was unfortunately lost in one of the random hard drive failures along the way. See, my L300D went through hard drives like water. I don't know what it was about those Toshiba drives, but it just kept on going through them and going through them and going through them. So I lost a lot of data in 2007 to basically 2010. In fact, even really into 2012, when the hard drive failures, at least for the most part, stopped. And by that point, I had started to come up with some actual backup schemes. But nevertheless, what was the other thing I wanted to mention about this machine? Oh, it does have the original power supply. Mine actually was lost. Toshiba lost mine in one of the various warranty repair shipments. So that's actually why I have that Rocketfish power supply that I have today. Kind of grateful for that, to be honest. Go ahead and have a look here at the ports and the overall layout of the machine. There's the wireless switch there. There's an indicator. There's your SD card slot. I don't think the latch really works on this. Or maybe it's just not... oh, one of the latches is actually broken. I just noticed that now. Anyway, there's a real volume control on the front here. Volume wheel. Well, sort of. It's an analog wheel, but it doesn't really... it's not really an analog wheel. Anyway, it's just like an analog control. Hey, a microphone, headphone. On this side is a single USB port. There's the optical drive, which is not a dual-layer drive. I think mine had a dual-layer drive in it back in the day. Port for the power brick. There's a Kensington lock. I don't think there's anything on the back, but I guess we can find out. On this side, there's an express card slot. 2 more USB ports, Ethernet. There's a cooling fan. There's a chip taken out of it there. VGA, and there's probably, if there's anything, yep, there's a modem on the back. Alright. Let's go ahead and set this thing down. We can actually test the battery, see if it does hold any bit of a charge, period. We can find out. This thing came to me running Windows 10, and I really don't know what it is about eBay sellers and feeling the need to load Windows 10 on anything and everything that looks halfway modern. It really doesn't work. You know, sure, it may boot up and you may get a desktop, but it doesn't have any drivers. The latest drivers for this system are for Windows 8.1. It actually kind of surprises me that they even bothered to release Windows 8.1 drivers. But apparently they did. Okay, well that much at least works. I'm going to the BIOS setup utility. So I erased it, and this is probably going to get me some fan mail once I go ahead and show you what I've installed on it. See, there's the date and time, CPU information, hard drive, and optical drive, and 4 gigs of RAM. They said they tested it and it was guaranteed working. And again, I think that's more of a case of they just loaded something on it and it booted up, so obviously it works. The hard drive, as I mentioned, has got a lot of bad sectors on it, and the RAM might not be totally working either. So definitely going to be replacing the hard drive, probably going to replace the RAM as well. So a couple of options here. It is an AHCI mode. I didn't check that. I think I'm going to turn on Wake on keyboard, though. I really kind of like that feature. Everything there otherwise seems okay. Pretty standard stuff. Probably should check for an updated BIOS. Might be one, although I really don't care that much. Now time to see what I've installed. Like I said, this is going to get me fan mail. But I have installed Windows Vista Home Premium 32-bit on this system. Just as mine was back in the day, and it's been customized a little bit as well, so that it looks like my machine did back in the day, at least somewhat. Not able to have all of the Toshiba utilities, but you know what, a lot of them were just bloatware and junk anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. So far, it seems to be working okay on Vista. I've installed Service Pack 2 and Internet Explorer 9, but I think that's probably as far as I'm going to take the updates. I've also installed an antivirus. The problem with Windows Vista is that the update agent doesn't seem to want to work. It likes to hang at checking for updates, and I ran offline updates and it did the same thing. It halted at listing IDs. It sat that way for a couple hours before I gave up on it. Windows is activated and all that, and you'll see Service Pack 2, 4 gigs of RAM. And when it actually comes up here, we can take a look at the Experience Index scores. At the time, this was my best system. Not bad on the RAM. But of course the video is really not up to a whole lot of snuff. I have loaded some of the Toshiba utilities on it, such as the Webcam utility. I got a lot of use out of that on my original machine, which is why I wanted it. Hoping I would be able to find it. It'll probably get annoying after a while, but I don't know, did it actually open? Oh yeah, the other thing that this has, the other problem is that the lovely little thing here is broken. That happened on my machine, I think 3 times. By the time it was all said and done, this thing likes to break. It wasn't very good quality. You can see there's wear marks here as well. That's one of the problems with silver plastic, especially painted silver plastic like this, is it tends to wear off. But as you can see there, you can see some doofus talking to his camera on YouTube. But the webcam does work. It's a little soft. It's 640 by 480 that it's running on right now, but I made a lot of use out of the video. You can see another thing that I've loaded here. So-called config free. Basically all it does is show you wireless networks within range. I always thought it was kind of cool. I have customized this a little bit. And I got some of my more modern utilities on it, like Core Temp and Crystal Disk Info, to check out the hard drive. As you can see, I don't know why it says it's overheating, but you can see it's not in the best of health. So a new hard drive is certainly in this thing's future. But I think, in the meantime, that is pretty much going to do it. So I'm going to shut this thing down and go work on the next project. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And this is CP666 signing off. And I hope to see you next time. Till then. Sure does take us jolly sweet time. But the battery seems to be working.